try new technology and try to improve our commercial product, which is now just closing its first sales in the world. And we expect over the next 5 years to add 50 new patented technologies that will improve our plant, and our plants will be backward compatible with those, because our plants are built on an assembly line basis. So in other words, they're not custom manufacturing design, which uses the same framework of a shipping container, a 40-foot or 20-foot shipping container. When we regather at the end of the day, I'll show you that. And the idea is there's 10 or 15 of these completely prefabricated plant components with all the plumbing and all the wiring and all the sensors, and they just bolt together, and in 10 days you're up and running after 9 months of building with them. So the idea is trying to build a custom plant in another country is such a nightmare. So we can do it much cheaper, and we approach the same cost efficiency of buying a plant, a big plant, from one of the 3 or 4 manufacturers of big plants. And yet we're doing it for 1 to 10% of the size of their plants. Typically, making something smaller is more expensive than making something bigger. So we're able to compete with a 1 million gallon per year plant with plants that cost 100 million gallons to make. So, you know, our price is, you know, competitive per gallon of alcohol produced. Now, we start here in this tank. Our raw material goes into here, and we do many things to it to get it ready for fermentation, which is the biological part. Yeah, you can take pictures. We just recently covered up one of our proprietary things. So let's say we put in wine pulp. You know, the grape pulp left over after pressing white grapes for wine, you know, for juice. So we put that in there, and we add in some acid. Is that raisins?
Raisins?
Yeah, there's raisins. Those are grapes. And there's waste raisins. So we have the great raisin industry asking us about using those. So we put those in the tank with water. We use steam to bring it up to a boil. And then we start doing things to it, like we change the pH. We might add a little bit of vitamin C, ascorbic acid, which will bring down the pH or increase the acidity. Or we might use something like agricultural lime to increase the pH or make it more alkaline. So the idea is we're using edible stuff to make our alcohol. And we'll cook that up, and we might add in enzymes, and we might add in other secret sauce things, and basically reduce that to a sugar solution. And then we'll cool it in that big red heat exchanger over there and pump it into our fermentation tanks. The fermentation tanks are where the alcohol is made. It's made by yeast, the same yeast that make wine or beer, or even the same yeast that make bread, actually. It's all the same yeast. It eats the sugar that's in the solution, and what yeast do is half the sugar they eat, they breathe out as carbon dioxide. The other half of the sugar they eat, they poop out as alcohol. So it's the byproduct of, these are byproducts, or, you know, of yeast trying to grow. They're eating the sugar and making these waste products. So the alcohol content rises and rises as they eat up more of the sugar, and they get up to, say, 12 or 13% alcohol, and then the party's over. All the yeast sex is finished, and all the alcohol they've been drinking is done, and then they keel over dead drunk at about 13% alcohol. 13% alcohol. Where have you seen that before?
Beer. Wine.
Wine, absolutely. That's because yeast have the amazing ability to not die all the way up to 13% alcohol, where bacteria, 1 part per million of alcohol will kill bacteria. So that's why we use it as a disinfectant. It's really good at killing bacteria. So yeast have evolved over thousands and thousands of years to be able to tolerate alcohol and kill it in a competition by exuding alcohol, and the bacteria can't compete with them for food in nature. So as an ecologist, I always go back to the source of things and why they are. So now we get 12% alcohol over there. Now, that's not going to run your car. We need to go ahead and purify it up to nearly all alcohol. So we'll pump it from there all the way over to this unit here. So the alcohol comes in up there in the middle of this thing, or into the lower end of this thing, depending on different conditions. And we inject steam into the bottom, and what happens is there are many, many small distillations on the way up. Distillation being defined as alcohol going up as a vapor and water being left behind. Eventually the water drops down, it goes out the drain pipe here out to our waste tank outside. We'll show you what we do with that waste later. When the alcohol leaves the top of this pipe, it might be 50% alcohol, 50% water. It goes over to the next column, which is the rectifying column of the distillery. And by the time it gets to the top of that one, it'll be 192 proof, or 96% alcohol. But at that point, heat alone won't separate the two. They like each other a little too much, water and alcohol. So then we put it into the absorption column, where the material in the absorption column absorbs water, but won't absorb alcohol. So what comes out of that is 200 proof alcohol. And that's how alcohol is sold in the United States when it's being blended with fuel and all that kind of thing.
Are you using corn in that one? This one?
Actually, we're using, no. You
Not,
mean,
yeah, from the book and the corn.
well, we can't tell you what we're using in
Oh,
there,
okay.
okay? Because there's a license involved and I'm not disclosing. But there are many materials that can be used. And corn grits have been used in the past for the final stage of absorbing water and letting the alcohol go by. So, and then we have to blow hot carbon dioxide through the column to drive off the water so we can use it again. Well, I didn't mention, but I will now, is that we make our own carbon dioxide. Look up there at those gray pipes above the tanks. So when the yeast are breathing out the carbon dioxide, it goes out those pipes, and we compress it and put it into a tank. Now, you know, in the old days in alcohol plants, they used to just let the CO2 go, because CO2 used to be very cheap and not worth saving, but now CO2 is quite expensive. And the reason is a huge type change in cleaning, where we no longer clean so many things with solvents. It used to be that you'd watch somebody come into an apartment building to clean the rust, and they'd come in with a two-hose setup where the cleaner would drive solvents through the carpet, and then the other hose would suck up the solvents into a tank in the truck. Well, then they had to dispose of those solvents. You know, that was expensive. Or cleaning tanks with stuff encrusted on the inside. They would use solvents, you know, in a jet kind of thing, and then they'd have to get rid of all that solvent. But now we're using compressed CO2 for all these things. They clean carpets now with high pressure CO2, and the dust is gathered by the device, and then the dust is really mostly dirt, which they can dispose of cheaply. Or in the case of scraping stuff off, you can even take the paint off a car with a jet of CO2. And so we can make dry ice from the CO2 and sell it for about $1 a pound. Well, that doesn't sound like very much money, but for every gallon of alcohol we make, we would get $6 for the dry ice. And gasoline is only worth $2.50, right? You know, a gallon of fuel. So actually, the carbon dioxide is worth more than the alcohol. And that's what you'll find in everything I do. I grab whatever is the byproduct to make it into something valuable. So now we've got the alcohol and the carbon dioxide to sell. So we're really getting everything we can out of the yeast. And We actually will show you where we use CO2 in the plant, in the whole operation. As I just said, we use a little of it to regenerate our absorption columns. So I want to do it, yes?
Is the compressor that compresses the CO2 run on electricity?
We're about to install one that runs on alcohol. Okay, right now the little one out here is running on electricity. But we are going to have a motor-driven compressor that runs on alcohol to, spin the compressor, and so we're using no fossil fuel at all.
Sweet.
And if you'll notice these orange pumps and stuff, these are pneumatic pumps. There's no electric motor on there. And most of the devices in here are non-electric, and the few that are going to be changed for pneumatic. So pneumatic runs on compressed air. So again, if we're making compressed air or compressed CO2, which we can use in place of air, by using a liquid-fueled compressor, we're not using any electricity to run all of our pumps and stuff to do the work. Now, there's a real important reason for this. We do a lot of work, and I have done a lot of work around the world in developing countries. Now, if you're like, say, in South Africa, where people get paid like $9 a day, and you leave an electric motor like that Blume where it's not tied down, that will disappear because the copper in that electric motor is worth more than a year's pay for the person who's making $9 a day. So it's not fair to put that temptation in front of people. So what you need to do is change pneumatics because they are just dumb steel, and you don't need to worry that the wiring and the pump motor will disappear. I mean, you can buy a house today in Detroit where millions of people have left and there's all these empty houses. You can buy a house in Detroit today for $1,000. But it's only $500 if the copper's gone. Where people tore all the pipes out of the walls and all the wiring. And that's how this is the world today. This is an asset-stripping world where poverty is that great. So over here, I want to show you a demonstration about what we think is one of the most important uses of alcohol.
Oh, Carmen thought she was that, but no, it's my turn.
You're going to do this? Okay.
Well, I'll do this and she'll do that.
All right, so I'll talk about this for a second.
Oh, you're not ready for this?
Almost. So these alcohol stoves, which are what we propose around the world to cook food, burn with no emissions. And we'll show you why that's important. But the most important thing, someone said, oh, you can't have an alcohol stove or alcohol in the house because none of the women will allow the men, allow the alcohol in the house because the men might get a hold of it. And men and alcohol, big problem. So here we do, we fill this cartridge with alcohol that we made here, and once it's in there, this one's quite full now, you'd say, well, how are you going to keep the alcohol in there? But it doesn't come out, you see. So what it is, it's a ceramic fiber that holds on to the alcohol, and so when you light it, the evaporation makes it work, but there's no way I got to get in there and drink it, So this is what's made these alcohol stoves very popular in Latin America, because a woman is carrying 100 pounds of wood like that, and she might have to walk 6 hours one way to cut that wood and 6 hours back. And then, the amount of labor sink of having to collect that wood is ridiculous, and people have to go farther and farther every year as the wood disappears. And so, part of the problem, the developed world issue about this is deforestation, because the greatest engine of deforestation is not timber harvest, it's cooking. Half of the planet, 3.5 billion people, cook over wood. So, you're talking about all of us as little termites eating the forest, and so we have to stop that. Now, there's another reason, which is more important, which is that when you burn wood indoors to cook, which is what people do, you have huge amounts of smoke. So 4 million women and children a year die from breathing the smoke of cooking. You should not have to die because you cook your food. Now, we're going to give you a little related demonstration here, which has to do with cars, and I use just a little more, actually, because sometimes it goes out too quick. A little alcohol there. So we have two dishes here. One's alcohol, one's gasoline. And Vanna White, our wonderful demonstration person, will come here and light
Oh, I've
them.
done gasoline already.
I can only see a few drips there. It's evaporating. Okay. All right. So will you do the honors? All right. So. Oh no. Come. That's it.
You need a new one.
All right. You can guess which one is the gasoline, okay? You'll see all this black smoke coming off it. This is hydrocarbons. This is wasted fuel. This is fuel that didn't turn into energy. This is soot, okay? So soot, of course, is not good to breathe. It's not good in the air. But because you're seeing all this unburned fuel, you got to wonder why. And it's because gasoline has over